Key Stage 2. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to watch my first video, and we've split off now because I'd like you to have a little think about a more open-ended question. So I'd like you to consider what our lives would be like without any routine. So I guess first we need to explore that word routine in a little bit more detail. Before I tell you, can you describe what we mean by routine? Really, it's a sequence of actions that are regularly followed. So we might have a morning routine or a nighttime routine, or certainly when you're at school we have routines, times of the day when things happen on a regular basis and we come to expect them. Do you have any routines at home? Maybe think about the morning. Do you have a similar time each day that you get dressed, wake up, have breakfast? Do you do things in a particular order when you do those things? And I'd like you to think about an ordinary time in school. We know that's not the case for most of us at the moment, but what regular routines do you follow in school? Think about what we do when we arrive and maybe your classroom timetable. What happens regularly on each of those days and what things differ, like your lessons. Maybe there's a certain day of the week we always have PE, for example. That might be regular. Do you like knowing what you're going to do and when? Or are you somebody that doesn't really think about those kinds of things and not really bothered about that? We're going to have a look at an example of a boy called Arthur on the next slide. And it's giving us a bit of a scenario of Arthur's day without any routine and how he experiences that day. So I'll read it out to you, but we're starting in the top left-hand corner. So Arthur says, I woke up and chilled out in bed for a while as I didn't feel like getting up straight away. I got dressed in my school uniform and headed to school. I didn't brush my teeth or have breakfast. I arrived at school, but the gate was locked, so I had to go in through the main office. Mrs. Teller told me I was late and asked where I'd been. The rest of my class were outside. I felt a bit anxious going to join them, as they all looked busy completing a science experiment, and it looked really fun. How do you think he feels so far about his day without any strict routine in the morning? Would you have enjoyed a day like this? What do you think it would have been like if nobody in school followed a routine? What impact do you think Arthur's actions have had on himself and others? And others could be his class or people in the office who've had to help him get to where he needs to be, which wouldn't normally happen in the morning. Maybe even his teacher. This is the next part of Arthur's day. Mr. Swindle, my teacher, gave me a wave and a smile and asked me to join in with the group. I felt better until my tummy started to rumble. I was so hungry. I decided to go to the canteen to get my lunch. When I arrived, Mr. Moore, the school cook, was quite cross and abrupt. He said it wasn't lunchtime yet and I shouldn't be wandering around the school. He sent me back to class. Mr. Swindle looked to be panicking when I returned. He looked up and saw me instantly relieved. He asked where I'd been. He had been worried and explained that lots of other adults in school had been searching for me. I explained how hungry I'd been and how I'd wanted something to eat. The bell rang for break, but I felt tired, so decided to sit in the classroom and read a book instead. Once I'd finished my book, I felt like going home, so set off. Once I arrived at home, I made myself something to eat. Afterwards, I decided to brush my teeth and then watch television. Police arrived at my house. I was confused, but they explained that school had contacted them as they were worried as I'd just disappeared. I said I was sorry as I hadn't meant to worry anyone, I just wanted to come home. How do you think Arthur felt in his day of no routine? Would you have enjoyed a day like this? What do you think it would have been like if nobody in school followed a routine? Here's a big one. What impact have Arthur's actions had on others in his day? You might like to pause the video here and have a discussion about how Arthur's actions may have impacted others. Think of all those scenarios as we've gone through the day, from when he's decided to wake up, all the choices he's made throughout the day, and how it's not only impacted him, his hungry tummy or his feeling tired and not wanting to go out to play, but think about how it's impacted others. Sometimes we might think that not following a routine might be enjoyable and have a less impact on others. It's always worth thinking about it. So I want you to have a think about why we do have routines. Can you list some of the reasons you might have a routine? For example, saving time. Doing something in an orderly fashion can often save time. Maybe encouraging good habits, like making sure you brush your teeth twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening. Maybe the times you eat. Arthur forgetting having breakfast definitely had an impact on his day. And we all know the importance of food to give us energy and ready for learning. Some people really like the structure it gives them, knowing what to expect and when. Do you like routines or not? Maybe your routines at the weekend are very different to the routines you'd have on a weekday. How does that change what you do yourself or with your family, depending on which day it is? Without any routine at all, life can become quite chaotic. Some people prefer a strict routine, where others prefer a more relaxed approach. It's important to find out what works for you and helps you get the most from life. So if you've got a bit of time this week, you might like to carry on the themes of this assembly. And you could send Mrs. Jagger and I some thoughts. One of the things you could do is to have a debate with yourself with the title, Having a Routine is Better Than Not Having One. You could fold your piece of paper into half and list the reasons for the statement on one side and against the statement on the other. I think you'll probably find you're able to fill in both sides of that debate. And then maybe you could compare that to the thoughts somebody else at home or in your classroom at school has. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And if you wanted to, you could write those points out as a bit of a discussion text. Maybe start with the question at the top, is having a routine better? Question mark. And then maybe give an introduction, a little paragraph about reasons for having a routine, reasons against having a routine, and a conclusion. If you'd like to do that, Mr. Jagger and I would love to see your work. Maybe, as another option, you could compare your typical, usual routine before lockdown and your typical routine during lockdown. Even for the teachers and staff at school, we've had times where we've had to still do our jobs, but in a very different environment, and managing that at home and how that's had to change. Certainly, we know all children at our inside school have had to have time adapting and changing their routine at home. Have you been able to keep your lessons at a similar sort of time and order that you're doing the school day, or has that had to change because of things that are going on for you and your family at home? Might be quite nice to compare those two timetables and think, actually, which ones do you prefer and why? Is there anything we can learn about this time when we've had to adapt our routine and be at home? So as ever, Mrs. Jagger and I would love to hear or see any of the work you've been doing at home, and if you've got any work you'd like to do linked to this assembly, please do send it in, or take a photo, or send something to your teachers and they can pass it on. And let's hope our school routine gets back to normal sooner rather than later. I know we would definitely love that to happen at our side. And I'll leave our assembly there, Key Stage 2, and you will hear from me next week. Bye.